then. And that's, why we're definitely continuing to send out the message that for the general action is to them. There is an opportunity, and there are many opportunities every single week throughout the entire year. There is always a professional women's sports event on at any point throughout any given week of any year. So the onus really comes onto the general public, onto us, to say, I'm going to make it a priority. I'm going to demonstrate that I believe that these women are worth watching. Like, they're putting in the hours, they're putting in the dedication, everything that goes into being an athlete, and that deserves our eyeballs, that deserves our time. And it's wonderful. It's entertaining. It's talent on the field. It's engaging, every single time that you're at one of these games for one reason or another. And that's what we really want to start changing, that narrative that's out there, currently, and making sure that people understand not only are these events super accessible, like there is most likely at any given time in your given community, there is some women's sports event going on at some level. Maybe it's not at the professional level, but definitely at a college or a youth level, there is some form of women's sports going on. And it's important that we demonstrate to all women, to girls, that their time and their effort being put into that given sport is meaningful, and that it deserves to be watched, and that they deserve to be watched and celebrated for being there.
Absolutely. Brenda, earlier you talked about how when you had your first 4 phone calls, you called other commissioners of these leagues, different sports, and you said their response was, hey, that's my story. Let's go into that. What exactly was the story? What was the pain point or the passion point that they connected with you specifically?
Well, I think every single league has phenomenal athletes, and they have outstanding volunteers, superb staff. And so what's missing? Sponsorship dollars and eyeballs and broadcasting deals and, media coverage. That's what's missing. And when we say, why is that missing? It goes back. You can't blame the broadcasters and the media or even the sponsors, because it is a professionally run business. And like any business, it has to add up. And, for a sponsor to say, okay, I can give you this money the first time because it's passion dollars, because I believe in what you're doing. But after a couple of years, it's like, okay, I need you to come back and, make sure that it makes money, or it provides an opportunity for me to be successful. So I think what our stories were all the same, and we had to find. Sorry, my dog's going a little crazy right now.
No problem.
So I think for us, the story was simply to say, if we can find a solution to get people into the stands and to get people to watch the eyeballs, to get people to the eyeballs to watch our athletes, then a lot of the other opportunities for media and for sponsorships and for dollars and broadcasting would come forth. And we all said the same thing. So every single person will say to us, I don't know anybody yet who has not gone to a professional women's sports game of any sport and not come out and go, wow, I can't believe the skill that I just saw. And so you find them, they automatically become a fan almost immediately, because the athletes that play in these games and who play in these leagues are phenomenal. So then you go, okay, so what is stopping the growth of fans, and what is stopping the growth of viewership? And it's us. It comes down to us, and that's the simplicity of it. One media person just said to me, hey, Brenda, it's really great. You've got all these women together, and the collective is phenomenal, and they're so powerful and so strength. It's a kumbaya moment, and it's not a kumbaya moment. It's a call for action moment. It's an opportunity for people to say, listen, I talk all the time about people should support this or people should do this, but what am I doing? What am I doing in an actionable way that's going to make a difference and that's going to make a change? If I'm just sitting here and I'm just complaining and I'm just saying this isn't right, then I'm part of the problem. And what I don't want to be is part of the problem. So how do I become part of the answer? Part of the answer is I'm going to take some type of action. And SheIS has come along with all the commissioners, and we said the action we need people to take is to come and watch us. Because if they watch us, if I fill the stands every night and my ratings go up by people viewing, I will be beating the sponsors off my doorstep. And so that's kind of the concept that we put together.
Yeah, and I like that you've mentioned this a couple times to me, which is it's not about beating a drum of complaint. It's coming from a positive place. And a lot of people may say, well, I have nothing against women's sport. What do you want from me? But you've answered that, which is it's not about stop getting in the way. It's about actually coming forward and enjoying it like any other sport, putting it on your radar, putting it in your consciousness to come see. So with that said, you mentioned Dr. Jen Welter, which I follow her feed on LinkedIn with her Gridiron Girls, Gridiron with God knows how many R's are in there for a good old GR. But she is a great example of, you see these things, and I'm a believer that women are playing football. I played actually at my low level of club 30 years ago in college in the Midwest. We had women that suited up because there was no such thing in the Midwest as women's club lacrosse back then. And so they can do it. But just me seeing that feed, it makes complete sense. You know, I don't get alerts every time she posts, but when I see things just enough, it doesn't seem unusual. So she's doing her part with that for sure. Who are some other people? Because I know you've got a lot of leaders, you say, engaged that are part of this group. Who else is out there that people can be aware of to kind of draw a little momentum, a little bit of encouragement from them when they see how easily it is to get excited about these sports?
Well, the first one that comes to mind for me was the Women's Professional Lacrosse League, because I was recently able to go out to one of their games a couple weeks ago and watched the New York Fight play in a home game for them. And I will be the first to put my hand up and admit, and I admitted it to Rachel at the time, who is one of the leaders she's the COO of the league. It's a brand new league. Sitting in there next to her, I went, Rachel, I'm going to be really honest with you. I was like, this is my first time watching a lacrosse game. And like, this is a woman who has grown up in lacrosse. Like, she played for years. Like, this has been in her world. She's, helped to found this league. Like this is her world. And she just kind of looked at me and she went, yeah, cool. And like, told me all of the different rules, the regulations, everything that goes into it. And it was an incredible game. And it was something that, even being a lacrosse novice, I sat there and I was engaged in the game the entire time. There was, it was easy enough to pick up on in terms of what the strategy was, in terms of, how the game is played. It is also one of the games that is across the U.S. seeing some of the highest increases in engagement and in participation from both men and women. So they're really seeing a boost that is happening at, kind of all levels of the sport. But I think what they're doing in starting that professional level, and a lot of the players will say this firsthand, like, they all thought that when they got done with college that was it. That, and a lot of them coach lacrosse, or, they still try to stay engaged with lacrosse in different ways. But having a professional league means that they actually get to take their talent and continue it beyond their college level and turn it into a real career and something that they can really do. And now, of course, and Brenda knows the ins and outs of this, like, turning it into a real career means eventually getting paid for it and, having an actual paycheck that's coming in. And that is the challenge for any new league. But that's what we're trying to help accomplish here, with even the new leagues, as much as we are with the more well-established ones. And WNBA has been around for 22 years. CWHL has been around for 11 years. now you've got WPLL that is literally in its first year and finishing off its very first season over the next couple of weeks. So it's the novice leagues learning from the leagues that have been around for a lot longer, but then also paving their own path. And that's a really incredible thing to see, and that's what we want people to really be engaging with.
Yeah, and I will say, since you brought that up, that league in particular has done a few minor tweaks between the collegiate and that pro league, that the game is still there, but it has definitely added another level of excitement. And by that, again, you've gone from 18 to 22-year-old women to 22 to 28-year-old women.
Yep.
They still get stronger and faster. That they're not done getting to their peak in college. Yep. And they've actually taken a player off and added a even shorter shot clock. So there's nothing gimmicky about it, but the game itself is even faster. And I believe they've even encouraged with there is a way, I think if they take a shot from further out, there's more points, and they've done it in a way because of that level of skill, it's not dangerous. It doesn't take away from the women's game, because a lot of those rules are, because it's not helmeted and padded up like the men. But they really, I've got to credit them with that. Watching it here in Baltimore, I've seen a few games. It's an improvement of a game that I didn't think needed improving, and I push back on all the men's game fans, and it's a great game itself, but it's a different game to leave the women's game home and appreciate it, because it really, I tell people, it's like watching, I'm dating myself here, watching Bird and Magic play against each other. It is not about brute force, even though it's got contact. It is about speed and skill and vision and some amazing playmaking that I think someone said, well, you don't get to hit, or there's just too many rules. I said, well, I think you're thinking of your kids playing rec. You really need to see these women play at this level. It is, it deserves, your attention, not just because women and men should be even, but it's an admirable sport, flat out. If I've played the women's game, if I was playing it, I say it's a great game to play. But they just happen to be women playing it.
I think, David, it has to do with a lot of our different sports. Like if you look at the hockey world, especially people will tell you at the Olympics, we have more fans watching the women's games than we do have the men's games, because the women's game has no body checking. They have contact, but they have no checking into it. So therefore, it's a very strategic game within the ice surface when you can't hit somebody to take the puck away from them. You have to strategically take it away. And so the game is different. It's based on speed, skill, and finesse. And a lot of times people will tell you, I love watching, even the NHL when it gets close to, the Stanley Cup, because that game also then goes more to speed, skill, and finesse. And that's where you see the true art of the athlete. So a lot of our women's sports have tweaked the game in some way that allows us to showcase exactly what we're good at. And that's why most people, when they see, no matter what sport they see, it's pretty phenomenal with our athletes.
And I think hockey is a great example, because like you said, throughout the season, you'll see all kinds of, not as many fights as there used to be 20 years ago, but you'll see, some of that play going on. But you don't see that in the playoffs. It is by far faster. It's almost unrecognizable about what the league looked like a month prior. And part of it is because they're actually mimicking more of the women's game. And as a coaching trainer for U.S. lacrosse, we talk about how if you want to learn to play great defense in the men's game, learn how to play defense in the women's game. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, there's no cheating, just, whacking somebody, running into them. You actually have to anticipate, be faster, be stronger, better form. And you tell them to try playing. He said, oh, wow, I can't actually do that. I said, right, but if you could, how much better would you be? And I think that is also where softball is going towards, in terms of, I think baseball has regained its form from the steroid slugfest it was for a while. But women's softball, I drive by the fields at the high school, I look at their techniques, these 14 to 17-year-old girls, they have better technique swinging a bat and throwing a ball